a good place to start would be, let's introduce ourselves with our names, kind of our main market area, and then also just kind of a fun little one-off. What's one of the scarier places that you've shown like an actual client? Because I definitely have a couple stories like that.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
yeah.
All right. Well, my name's Brad Landman. I am a realtor based out of Gun Lake, working in Cascade, Michigan. Really, I'll go anywhere that you want to sell or buy a house. I can't be fussy right now.
Yeah, I think the classic phrase downstairs where we converse a lot is "have car, will travel," and I think that's pretty true. We've each gotten leads across the state or way up north, and you kind of think to yourself, oh hey, would I? But we all would. I think is what's important. Yeah, so pretty interesting there. Okay, and what's a scarier house that you've shown?
Well, yesterday I was in an old Elks Lodge up in down in Otsego, Michigan. And
Elks Lodge, like a old fraternity, right?
Yeah, the Fraternal Order of the Elks.
Of course.
The BPOE, the Benevolent Protector Order of the Elks, as they like to be called when they're being fancy. Went in and heard water running, which thought maybe somebody was in there. There was not anybody in there. Thought maybe for some reason a sink was left on because it had been cold. So thought, well, maybe I should find out where this water is. Got about 10 feet in and was standing in water. So that was an issue. Found the leak. Was able to do a little troubleshooting and eventually was able to shut off the water that was leaking all over the floor and whatnot.
Wow.
So
wow.
That's a thing.
So active water leak is definitely in the list and a list of no-nos usually if you're conducting a showing. That's fair.
It's not often. My brewer training actually pays off in other realms, but I'm very comfortable and familiar with plumbing.
With flowing water.
Yes, exactly. So usually I like to have more control.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Andrew VanDeWalker. I conduct real estate business out of Grand Rapids. Currently I live southeast of town, and so I like to stick in that area. But kind of like what Brad said, I'm from West Michigan as well, so I like to service all of this area in West Michigan because I've been familiar with it my whole life. So, but one of the scarier homes that I've shown, I think, would have to be there was it was bank owned, it was in the city, and when we opened the door, it was vacant.
Okay.
But we were hit with a smell, and it's the kind of smelly smell that hits your nose, and something's not right. And so I said, why don't you stay at the top of the stairs? I'm going to run down. And it wound up being there were a couple deceased cats in the basement. Ooh. So that was a rough one. That was a rough one. I let the realtor know, and they got it cleaned up. But they think it was just a couple strays that got in. So, not the fanciest one. They did not end up buying. Although I don't think it was because of the cats. There were some other things going on.
Yeah.
But
usually, if there's cats, there's that's the tip of the iceberg.
The tip of the iceberg is exactly right. There are some things that we wanted to cover, though, in this video, just to kind of help set the stage of where we're at and kind of some of the realities of working in this business. And I think primarily a good place to start would be, what's it like being, we're both in our first couple years of real estate, so a lot of veterans might call us rookies. And so what's it like being a rookie in a market like this? I mean, we're post-2021, we're post-2022. They obviously had a lot of issues around that time. So what's it like being a rookie in this market, I guess, for you, Brad?
I started last time, Andrew. We're going to start with you.
Sure.
What's been your rookie experience?
That's a great question. I think, especially in this market, being buyer savvy is really important. The last couple of years have been really competitive for people trying to find homes. And when you put that against people also trying to build wealth at the same time, you start running into really competitive offer situations on homes that are under $300,000, let's say. Okay, so like we're in the lower part of the average price market. And so, being a rookie walking into something like that, it can definitely be daunting to be like, hey, I'm about to submit an offer and I know that there's 13 other offers on this property. So kind of knowing where you can stand out in an offer is really important, especially since rookies primarily work with buyers, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or at least that's a good place where people start.
Yeah.
And so I think over the course of the last, couple years or year or so that we've been doing this, understanding where those reservations are so that you can say, hey, I think or I know that this the competitive, the comparables is what the word I'm looking for. The comparables in this area really are going for this amount, and all investors know that already. They know the kind of markets that we're in, and so saying, hey, if this is something that you're going to want, we have to make sure that we're at least batting at that price point. Yeah. So an asking price may not be even close to what the house goes for, just to bring in the numbers. Have you experienced some of that?
Yeah, it's funny because that's exactly it's the sale price seems, which is kind of counterintuitive. The sale price seems to be an important factor, but not the most important factor. I've tried my best to develop relationships with the listing agent to, especially before I show a house or right after I show a house, if my client's interested, hey, what have what's important to your seller? We're very interested in this. Our offer's going to be one of the offers you see. What would make it stand out? Do they want to stay longer? For instance, I just closed on a place a couple weeks ago with a 45-day possession time because the owners, the sellers were, well, we don't know where we're going. They kind of had a place in mind, but it put them at ease that, hey, we're not under the gun so much to get out of here. It gives them 45 days. It kind of just, that was one of the things that they really liked about our offer. That was there was only one other offer on that house, and price was the same, financing, everything was the same, but we gave them 45 days, and that just happened to be what helped that seller decide.
That's cool.
Yeah. How do you coach your clients on? Because realistically, a cash buyer who's looking at an investment who might lowball but says no inspections because they can already look at it. They already have an idea what they're getting into. Definitely. Where you have somebody, this is their first house, this is all the money in the world plus another $200,000 that is getting tied up into this, and any hiccup can be devastating to them.
Definitely.
How do you handle the inspection?
Coming from speaking as a realtor, we have to operate with our client's best interests at heart. That is first and foremost, right? And so if I'm talking to a first-time home buyer who's walking in, and you're exactly right, they're putting everything into just being able to buy the house, right? That kind of scenario opens up the door for really large risk if you're not taking inspections. And when you go and look at a house, you can get a general idea, but we live in Grand Rapids. These houses are old. Yeah. And a lot can hide behind the walls and behind behind the facade of the house has been redone or whatever it is. A lot can hide there. And so when you boil it down to, hey, we put everything we had into this $170,000 offer or whatever it was. Yeah. I always suggest it. It does come a savvy buyer who might know when the situation is right for them to not have an inspection. An investor who's worked with properties before has a good understanding of what a project will take, and then they can kind of take it from there. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I was just curious because I just worked with some folks who very comfortable this is their second home, very comfortable working on a house. Has a friend who's a roofer, has a friend who is an electrician, all the friends that cases of beer can make problems go away with. And so they had a fairly open mind when the inspection came back. It still cost money, so we were able to work out a better purchase price.
Yeah.
But I would personally not feel comfortable, especially with a buyer that just sees a house that this is the perfect house. I don't care what it takes. If they aren't comfortable with, we'll say, a $50,000 surprise.
Sure.
Unfortunately, that's not the house for them
Right.
if they don't want an inspection. And so,
because those surprises do come.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Next, let's talk about, we're newer agents.
Sure.
A lot of people could say, well, they don't have the experience of the guy down the road that's been doing it forever.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is true to a degree. However, I think we both feel, because we're in the shoes of the newer agent, there are quite a bit of advantage of going with somebody who's a little bit more willing to put the work in.
Definitely.
What do you see as the advantages of going with somebody?
To be fully transparent, like, there are disadvantages as well of working with a newer agent. But let's talk about those advantages
You can edit
first.
those out.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think part of the advantage, it has to come from also where the person has their experience from in the past. What kind of support they have in their current work structure, and then also, what kind of attitude the person has. If I only have 3 buyers that I'm working with, or 1 buyer that I'm working with, and you come to me with questions, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to do my best to answer your question, and to answer it well, and if I don't know the answer, to find the answer through my resources. And it's because I want to show the few clients I have the very best experience possible to lead to further business.
I think with us, when we talk to somebody who's interested in buying or selling a home, we're on top of them. Like, we're dedicated to them, instead of, well, that's a little further north than I want to be.
Exactly. And that's the half car will travel.
Yeah,
again.
Exactly. Yes. I've seen some wonderful areas of this beautiful state we live in.
I think it's also important to, when we talk about the advantage here, that we talk a little bit about our brokerage.
Absolutely.
Do you agree?
Yeah. There's a reason we're both where we are.
Yeah. So Coldwell Banker, we're holding the mugs. I'm wearing the shirt. You see the sign, right? Okay. Coldwell Banker is a company that's really committed to nurturing early agents. And I think that really sets the precedent for the kind of service you're going to get from an agent who's working with Coldwell Bankers. We have mandatory trainings. We have the support of veteran agents. We have a dedicated broker in the office whose line is open whenever you have questions. I think it was the first 10 offers I wrote, at least, our broker went through with a fine-tooth comb to make sure there was no issues. And so they want to make sure that clients that work with a CB agent are really going to be well taken care of.
What is it, 90%? It's some high range of new realtors are out of the business by 2 years in.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting, it's not a regular job where you go make $15 an hour doing whatever it is and get raises next year and the year after. Right. It's a very different, it's feast or famine, literally.
Sure.
It's hustle to get clients. You don't get paid if you're not doing something. So
right.
It's Coldwell Banker has the stat where they haven't updated it for 2022 yet, but in 2021, the average Coldwell Banker listed property, I'm totally reading it here, the listed property sold for 20.7% higher than the national average. So
wow.
That's one of the other kind of advantages that Coldwell Banker has, is it's a great place to start your career, but it's also, as your career goes on, we deal with, beautiful homes like the one behind you there.
Absolutely.
It's definitely a great way to build the building blocks for an excellent career.
Totally. Rolling back and talking about what the squad is the squad is it's a collection of newer agents. We share an office space, but it's really a space for collaboration. So I think there's five-ish members of the squad, and they kind of phase out after a couple years or whatever it is. But because of the squad, we've been able to have opportunities like visiting different parts of the city that maybe we're not familiar with, but another member is, or meeting members of the community of a group that I'm a part of that maybe Brad isn't a part of, or the same way the other way around. Brad's an amazing brewer, and so I got to hang out in one of his classes and meet some of the people that are part of his sphere there. And so we really have the opportunity to bounce off of each other here and to grow together.
Yeah, it's collaborative, not competitive.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, I have a fairly extensive professional brewing career. And one of the things that I loved about that career is how collaborative that industry is.
Sure.
It's hard to walk into any brewery in the world, talk about beer with the brewer, and not have them talk about a brewery down the road in a favorable light. It's one of the great things. And frankly, it scared me about getting into this industry where when you watch movies, it's so like cutthroat and terrible. And when I found out about the squad, I was, oh my goodness, this is amazing. This is exactly the place where I'm going to learn the nuances of this industry.
Sure.
And I couldn't be happier with that experience.
I think it's a good time for us to talk a little bit about, I think, our where we come from and kind of why we ended up in this industry. Yeah, so I guess where do you come from, what'd you do, and what led you to real estate is what I want to know.
So I was out in Colorado. I grew up in this area, moved to Colorado for a little over 20 years. While out there, I stumbled into a career as a professional brewer, and I've won quite a few Great American Beer Fest medals and absolutely love everything about beer, because who doesn't? But then ended up moving back to be closer to family, back to the West Michigan area. Absolutely loved the move, but part of that move necessitated a career change. Was where we live, there's not a lot of breweries nearby, and the ones that are there are all owned and run by family members, so not really enough career advancement without driving an hour to work at a larger brewery. And so just kind of was trying to figure out what to do. I've always been fascinated by real estate, and just for something to do last winter took the class to become a realtor, and then just started seeing how all that would play out, and boom, here I am.
We're in Beer City right here too. Mm-hmm. Do you feel at home?
Absolutely. Well, it's funny, just being a brewer, I've somehow stumbled into keep meeting brewers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I must know the secret handshake. How about, where do you come from, Andrew? What's your...
That's a great question, Brad. Man, where do I come from? Where do I go? Yeah. Where do I come from? Yeah, so I've lived in West Michigan my whole life. I grew up closer to the coast there in the Grand Haven area, and then again in the Zeeland area. But I've lived in Grand Rapids now for close to 8 years, because I went to college here. I'm a Calvin College grad, now Calvin University grad. But I got started after college working in the marketing world. I was an account manager at a digital advertising firm, and it's a lot of client interaction. It's a lot of client management. It really got me dug into the weeds of some of the marketing analytics and terms, which is obviously really important in a business like this. So that equipped me really, really well, I think, for dealing with people, dealing with issues, working through, real estate isn't all sunshine and rainbows, unfortunately, as much as we like to think it is. So, understanding where the client's at and knowing how to broach a difficult subject is really
And
important.
I assume you probably dealt with larger sums of money than you would as a grocery store.
Yes,
clerk or
that is for
something
sure.
like that,
Yeah, millions of dollars.
Yeah, you're comfortable
really
dealing with millions of dollars on and that's not nothing. That's a skill. to be able to be comfortable talking about other people's millions of dollars.
I did some in-home tech support as well, which was honestly, that was a blessing too. But meeting people in their spaces where they're at, talking at their kitchen counter, working through issues, and sometimes technology can be really personal. And so working through intimate issues with essentially strangers and establishing that safe space to work through problems together. I did that tech support thing for, a little over a year as well. And that just really fed my love for working with people, in their space. But it's also important to note that I have roots in the industry. My mother-in-law has been a realtor for over 20 years. And
not just any realtor. She knows what she's doing.
She's the bee's knees. She's the bee's knees. Shout out to Joni and the Holland Coldwell Banker office. But she really helped mentor me in this business initially and get me excited about it. And she told me what her mentor told her originally was, real estate is the last free market enterprise. I can come in as essentially an anybody and build a business to be somebody if I wanted to. And it takes hard work, it takes mistakes in building, but there's no telling where this career can go, and there's a lot of opportunity in it. And so that's what got me really excited. And so I was originally licensed back in 2015 while I was in college. I wanted to sell to my college dorm mates, when they wanted to buy a house after.
Genius.
I thought so. I know. So that was the original intent. But I renewed my license a little over a year ago now, and I've been trying to grow in Grand Rapids ever since.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's been an adventure so far. Yeah. Do you have any closing statements here?
Thanks for watching. We'll definitely keep working on this. Let me know who you know that's looking to buy or sell a house.
See, Brad, he's on top of it. I wasn't even gonna say that. I forgot. Yeah, I'm a realtor. Brad's a realtor. If you need help, feel free to reach out. But thanks for letting us indulge and talk about some of our past and our current experiences up till now. We're gonna be learning a lot, I think, as time goes on. And we'd love to keep on sharing it because this business it can be daunting to walk into as a buyer or a seller or as an agent. But the more that we collaborate and talk about it, the more that we can learn from each other. So
we're here to help.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks. We'll talk soon, Brad.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.